And we struggle sometimes to realize that it's in our consistency is where God can use us the most. Like there are requirements for us to be used, for us to be a part of this. It's not we just come in and we're loose cannon. God's going to use us no matter what. Like He has met us in broken places. Anybody raise your hand on that one? The ones I can see, and I guarantee everybody's got their hands raised, right? I met my wife in a nightclub. We were not doing what we're supposed to do. But I know today we are where we are because he was even in the background in Peabody's in Virginia Beach. Um, but it's when you get to a place of alignment, which we talked about last week, and then consistency. You can be aligned for a moment, but when you get consistent in the alignment, there's something that happens. There's something that now positions you to be used. And that's what we're learning over the 7 days is the first lesson I learned is you have to be intentional. So I have to drink 2 of these a day. That's I could drink water. I realized day one, a gallon of water is way too much. And you got to be intentional drinking it. It's not like I'll just have a little bit here and there. You get about 3, 4 o'clock and you realize you've not made it through the first bottle. You're staring down the barrel now because I'm like, I'm not going to miss 75 hard one day because I did all the workouts, I did the reading, I did everything, and I can't drink water. I'm a human. I have to drink water to live. So I realized real quick, I have to be intentional. And I think when we begin to realize the intentionality of consistency, it's putting the schedule today. Christina, you talking about how you work in a business and a job already, but you also have the entrepreneur on the other side. You can't tell me that there's not a consistency required in order to meet the daily schedule with a rapidly one that's probably pretty fixed. I'd say your business life is a fixed schedule. Your entrepreneur side is not. So I'd love to hear your take on this because I think as we get this, I have another word I want to talk about. But I want to hear from you. You just get to jump right in and be the first one today about the organization of the very steady but the fluid in the same.
So I think for, any kind of engineering firm or any type of corporate business, you have your 8 to 5, or sometimes it's 55 hours a week, depending on what project you're working on. So it's pretty intense. And then, for me to be able to balance the corporate life and the home life and the entrepreneur side, I think there's 2 things that it comes down to me to not have or to have that consistency, right? So it can be all over the place and I've got a million things to do when I get home. But I think for the 2 things that we've really done intentionally over the last 7 years as a husband and wife team is we've defined what our skills are, right? Like, what are you really good at? And the things that I'm really good at, sometimes I don't want to do it because it's accounting, it's taxes. I don't want to do it. But those are the things that we're really, really good at. So from day one, we got really clear about what we're good at, what our skills are, and what we can bring to the table because we knew it was going to be the 2 of us. It wasn't going to be a staff of 20 people. And so when you can consistently show up with those things that you're good at, and the things that you want to do, maybe you're creative and you want to do something else. So like I do all the website, all the social, that gives me a creative outlet. My husband makes products. He makes candles. It gives him that creative outlet. And then we both do the farming. We both do the shows. But the other thing I would say is, it doesn't happen overnight. So any kind of entrepreneur, I think, if this is like an exit plan, that somebody's having or wanting to do, I would say, you have to keep consistency with your real job because that's what's paying the bills, right? That's what's keeping your family afloat. I'm not a big risk taker. So I got to have that. I got to have that stability. But I would say the second thing that has made us really successful in basically being able to juggle all of this is the fact that we take one step at a time. We do one thing every day consistently to move the business forward. So if that's just creating the 1-page business plan that Tamara had, or, finding a new way to budget our money, or a new supplier to do, to get supplies from that is actually going to reduce our costs. One thing that day. So, not putting all the pressure of all the things, because our to do list can be like this, right? Um, and so I think those two things, I don't know if it would help anybody else, but and then our consistency in our walk, right? So we do have breakfast every morning together. We have our coffee before we go and run through our day. My husband works at our church, but we both need that. We both need that time in the Word and that time together before we even set off to do anything. And I think he just makes the time. He makes the time that we need to do both. And we have a plan, right? We know when he's going to be able to kind of we know when we're going to pay ourselves eventually. We know what that plan is, even though we wish that happened 7 years ago, but we now have a plan for paying him. So